So these are excerpts from a letter that I found on my car 2 years, 3 months, and 10 days ago. You never really loved me. Never. People who actually love someone never do that. Don't kid yourself. You're sick. I was date raped once when I was a young girl, and it was horrible, and what you've done to me is much worse. I feel gross, like I am covered in your filth. Everything of yours is laying in your driveway. I even took the sheets off my bed and threw them in the dumpster. I'm not going to call you all the nasty, horrible names that you are. Because I loved you, and I think you're very, very sick, perhaps schizophrenic. There's a deep blackness in your heart. Satan has his grip on you. I'm deleting everything about you from my life and blocking you from my phone. Do not come near my home. I'm afraid of you. The letter ended with, you've crushed me, you've stole the air out of my lungs, the life out of my heart, you took most of my soul, and you've devoured my best friend. I don't ever want to see your face or hear your lying voice again. How do you come back from that? You don't. I'd blown it. And excuse me, but I fucked up in the worst possible way. I finally had the one that I wanted, the woman who loved me, and I got busted cheating on her with another girl who I was lying to as well. Not to mention the wound and disillusion that I inflicted on her 3 grown children who I was trying to build a relationship with. You know, looking back, trying to fix it would have looked like I was the one that dodged the bullet. As long as I could find a way for her to just forget about it, I would have absolutely chosen me first, which wasn't too different from what I had already been doing. What would it take to fix this? Well, okay, let's do an inventory. I had basically given everything away. Everything. Everything that mattered. My time, my integrity, my sexuality, my values, my self-worth, my freedom, my sexuality, my strength. I no longer had any currency with her and even with my peers. And then I finally hit my knees, like for real, because you see, this wasn't the first time that I had been unfaithful. But this was the first time that I was unfaithful to someone who truly loved me, and to somebody I couldn't imagine being without. And the picture I got was I was walking through the enemy's jungle and I stepped on a landmine. And I woke up screaming and shaking violently on a table while Jesus the medic was just trying to keep me still and stop me from bleeding. You know, in that moment I had a sense of calm, and in my heart what I heard was, as long as you're the one that needs rescuing, Gabriel, you're never going to be able to rescue anybody. and she will always need rescuing from you. So what I learned at that moment, I don't even know if it was that moment, but it was in that space. What I learned in that space, in many situations after that, was, while God is a God of miracles, right? We know God is a God of miracles. He does miracles. He loves miracles. He's into miracles. He parts seas. He heals sick. None of that matters. None of it matters if I don't have the balls to cooperate and walk across the damn sea that he parted, all while there's a mile-high thing of water on either side. It matters not if I don't cooperate. I started to realize that I had attached my heart's desires to every single thing around me except for him. And I was coming up empty every single time. And up to that point, I was bringing that thirst, that deficit to Michelle. And I realized that I had a choice. I had a choice to cooperate, really cooperate with what he needed to do in my heart as a man, or not. And just stay in this pit of self-pity and despair. You talked about choices. Those were one of my only choices. While I was preparing for this, I was asked, what changed in you, Gabriel, at that moment? I love you, Rusty. What changed is that I realized that my pose had left me totally empty. And that whatever I did on my own to fill whatever empty cup I was carrying around, I was left with nothing. And you can't live an adventure or fight a battle or rescue a freaking beauty with nothing. Nothing of eternal value anyway. And up until that point, no matter how smart I thought I was, everything that I'd come up with wasn't working, judging by the wake of death and destruction that I'd left behind me. So, in the interest of time, I'm going to skip ahead a little bit. So now we're a year ago. Now, actually a little more than a year ago. We're now on this tentative path to reconciliation. All of a sudden, another major pothole comes in the road. Michelle had a major skiing accident. And no one, not even her family, stepped in to take care of her. And for 6 months, I did. From bathing to her, to using the bathroom, from changing her bandages after surgery, doing daily PT, managing her meds, cleaning the house. Like, I was her caretaker. I was asked another question. Where'd you get the strength to do this? So, listening to some of the stories and some of the guys here that have had experience with taking care of a loved one, a significant other, a spouse, in those ways, in those really in that way, right, where you have to lift her up out of the toilet and dignity is gone, right? When you have to take care of someone for that, like that. On the flip side of that, the basic relational needs now, all of a sudden, don't happen. Period. And empty cups all over again. But Jesus. Oh, man. But Jesus had been doing heart surgery on me for about a year. because I'm a pain in the ass and I don't really cooperate right away. So, I'm sorry. Yeah, he'd been doing heart surgery for about a year, and my deep desires became clear. Love, significance, worth, to be known, that's a big one, to be believed. To be believed. You know, the more I asked him about those, the less I needed Michelle in those ways. And you know, and the answers come, sometimes they come out of the ether, sometimes they come through friends. You know, I'm not going to get into that. It's a conversation we're going to have on the night watch. But at the end of the day, I didn't have to go to her I didn't need her for that. And all of a sudden, I was on an overflow. And Michelle began to trust me enough to let me back in. As Justin said, I was now making new choices. I didn't begrudge them. I was just making new choices. And because she saw that I was no longer dependent on what she could give me, all of a sudden, that overflow became the currency that I needed to be able to get through something with her instead of just for her. And then one night I picked her up out of the wheelchair and I put her in the bed and I kissed her on the forehead and I heard the words that I thought I would never hear again. You're my hero. Oh, an answer to prayer in so many ways. You could see I was not capable of loving her correctly, truly, unhindered, until I was able to expect and receive what Jesus had for me. And that, like I said, that came through just learning and doing and cooperating and not being freaking lazy and not saying I'm going to do and then not do. Shut up and do. That's for me. Just do. So I got to see what that looked like. I stand before you today to tell you that Michelle is now my wife. Yeah. Yes. I wish I could say that every story for every one of us can end like that. But actually, that's not even the end of the story. That's just a cool part of the story. The cool part of the story was that I got to get into a relationship with Jesus, which was really cool. Like, that was cool. It's still cool. And it's cool, and it's infuriating. It's wonderful and funny, and right? So like Rusty said yesterday, today, Rusty said yesterday, the beauty never stays rescued. Between her own past wounds, her future mistakes, her own future sins, and sometimes she might even find herself tied to a railroad track on her own. But rescuing her doesn't mean I have to be Mr. Fix-It. It's knowing how to pursue her, and knowing when and how to love her through the areas that I don't have any business trying to fix. And not coming to her from my place of thirst and woundedness. God knows I do that enough with you guys. Sorry. But being able to show Jesus' love for me to her I won't be the man in the letter that I got, but I'll always be the man picking her up out of the wheelchair and putting her to bed at night, kissing her on her head and telling her I love her. Thank you.